So, I guess we probably should make a video about this entire topic, because if we actually do see a trade, this can be the I told you so moment that we can go out there and say, you know, I never get these things right. We make so many rumor videos, we make so many trade speculation videos, and it never really goes down the way we talk about it. Actually, it only goes down the way we actually discuss it, like 20% of the time, maybe even less than that, so maybe this will add on to that 15% or so, but either way, we're making a video about what Pierre LeBrun had to say on Twitter on February 16th, so yesterday. He made a tweet that went sort of viral, got 1,800 likes and over 400 retweets. Keep an eye out on the Rangers and the Habs between now and March 21st, which is the NHL trade deadline. I think Montreal covets some Rangers prospects. The Habs could fill some Rangers needs. Montreal would rather add prospects over picks. They already have 12 picks for the July draft, and the Rangers pipeline is drawing the Habs' interest. And that's it. That's the tweet. That's our entire source right here. So, Pierre LeBrun going out there highlighting his idea that the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Rangers might get involved in some action between now and the 21st trade deadline in March. So, let's talk about why exactly the Canadiens would want to be interested in specifically Rangers prospects and what the Montreal players could do for New York. Now, firstly, you take a look at who New York has in their prospect pool and you acknowledge that the majority of these guys were indeed drafted by Jeff Gorton. So, yeah, he was the GM of that team from 2015 until 2021, and he was an assistant general manager for even longer, so he's literally been with the Rangers for such a long time, starting out with a scout role back in, like, 2007 or whatever it was. So, a lot of the prospects, if not every single prospect in the Rangers organization, Jeff Gorton has had a hand in developing. He is the executive vice president of hockey operations here at the Montreal Canadiens, and so it makes perfect sense for the Canadiens to be interested in Rangers prospects, because it's like, okay, hey, our guy at the top of the food chain developed these players. Now, the conversation opens up even further when you discuss who exactly these prospects could be. We have seen a whole bunch of New York guys enter the trade talk and speculation world, from the guys that have been here for a while, like Vitali Kravtsov, to new defensemen that have made their way onto the scene, like Nils Lundkvist, and then you have even newer players like Brennan Othmann and Will Coyle thrown in there sometimes by some people as well. The Montreal Canadiens have reportedly already expressed interest in Vitali Kravtsov, although that was from like a few months ago, so I don't really know how accurate that report is for today, but either way, Kravtsov is a name that has been thrown around there in some conversations. He's a guy that could probably come into the Montreal Canadiens forward core immediately and add some pretty desperately needed scoring. Of course, the other defenseman, let's just, for the sake of argument here, throw out a Nils Lundkvist or whoever. His name has been thrown around in a lot of Vancouver talks by some people, so if he indeed is a Montreal target instead, let's just say, there you go, there's an offensively capable left-handed defenseman that will probably suit up in the NHL for an extended amount of time once he makes the league for the first time, and he's pretty much at the start of his career, so whatever he becomes, it's yet to be seen. The Montreal Canadiens have a pretty lackluster offensive capacity when it comes to the left side of their D-core. Guys like Romanov and Chiarot and Edvinsson, when healthy, are never really seen as top-of-the-line point producers. Nils Lundkvist, though, had himself a very good offensive profile in the SHL, so we'll see whether or not that's something that could come in here and maybe improve should he be traded. But then you have the other prospects as well that are kind of bouncing around. Will Coyle is a guy that some people have been throwing out there in trade discussions. Brennan Othmann is a recently drafted Ranger as well. And so there are a lot of prospects that this team does have that the Montreal Canadiens could decide, okay, maybe we see value in this guy, maybe we see value in somebody else over there, should a trade actually go down. But of course, it's Jeff Gorton being the main guy in New York for all those years that could probably be seen as the reason why Montreal is even in these talks. But when it comes to what the Rangers could actually get from Montreal in return, what could actually be sent over to justify the acquisitions of any Rangers turn Montreal prospects? Well, the main names that we have seen pop up once in a while include scoring forwards like Tyler Toffoli, speedy forwards like Artturi Lehkonen, and solid left-handed defenseman depth like Ben Chiarot. All three of these guys are players that we have made videos about before when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens, maybe trading them to New York. Of course, Tyler Toffoli is not going to be in that conversation anymore because he's kind of not available for the Montreal Canadiens to trade at this point in time. but that doesn't mean the rest of the Montreal Canadiens' potential trade palette is not available either. Artturi Lehkonen is still a player on the Montreal Canadiens that could be seen as a valuable New York Rangers target, and of course you have Ben Chiarot too. Let's just go over these guys right here. Artturi Lehkonen is a pretty interesting name because a lot of people do realize that there is a good amount of value when it comes to what it is he provides out there on the ice. He's still pretty young, 26 years old, definitely not going to expire in the NHL anytime soon, but he does indeed expire at the end of this season, so he could be seen as a prime rental option should any team want to acquire a speedy, versatile winger like he is. Taking a look at the New York Rangers and their forward core, though, I do think that you could maybe bolster it up a little bit. Like, I do really like what the Rangers have. It's just, you take a look at the top six, we know who is in that top six. Kakko, of course, when he's healthy, but now it's Barclay Goodrow. Lafreniere's in there too. Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Strome, etc. Then Cheadle, Hunt, and Gauthier. I do like Dryden Hunt in that left wing spot on the third line. You could maybe improve Gauthier, so if you really wanted to throw in a Lehkonen, that might be where he slots in somewhere on the third line. And honestly, you talk about the Rangers, you talk about the offensive potency that this team does have. You can never have enough guys who work hard and skate hard, and Artturi Lehkonen fits the bill pretty well. Then, of course, you do have Ben Chiarot, whom we have discussed in a multitude of trade videos, talking about other teams like Florida, St. Louis, Washington. New York has indeed been one of those teams as well. I do really like the New York blue line. Like, to be honest, Lindgren, Fox, Miller, Trouba, Jones, and Schneider, I do think the mix of youth and experience is pretty great over here, and I really do like their capabilities overall. But Ben Chiarot is kind of that rock, you know? We say the same thing every time we talk about this guy in a video, but he can play 25 minutes a night without really making too many mistakes. He's a left-handed guy who can eat up minutes and who can play physically. And for the New York Rangers, who, especially in this offseason, had themselves a really big focus on that physicality, trading away Buchnevich for, who the heck they acquire, Sammy Blais, then you have Ryan Reeves as well. Ben Chiarot kind of fits that sort of idea and that template pretty well, so I could totally understand if the Rangers are still involved in discussions for these kinds of players. You also had Calvin DeHaan on the Chicago Blackhawks that entered the left-handed defenseman conversation too. So talk to me in the comments, what do you think? If you are a Rangers or a Canadiens fan, what is the deal here? Prospects on the New York side, regular roster players on the Canadian side, who do you think should get swapped around and for what? Do you see a trade going down where the Montreal Canadiens acquire a guy like Vitali Kravtsov, for example, for a Ben Chiarot? We've seen the prices for these guys and what they could go for. I mean, Montreal's kind of putting Chiarot out there and maybe going to accept a first-round pick and a prospect from any bidding team. Is that prospect that Vitali Kravtsov, or is it a Will Coyle, or is it a different form of a roster player? Who really knows? You want to talk about roster players? Alexander Georgiev has potentially been in the market too, and that guy's a goalie. Montreal, unfortunately, could use more goalies because, yeah, the entire controversy with McNiven being injured and Allen being injured and Price being injured, and then, of course, Caden Primo sucking as much as he did. Montreal could use a little bit more support in net if you really wanted to argue that, so you can talk to me in the comments if you think that is more appropriate as well. Let's say it's an Artturi Lehkonen instead who gets sent over to New York. What does that guy fetch? He's got to be a rental in this situation, just like Chiarot. Is he worth a first-round pick? Is he worth only a second? Is he worth a prospect? Who really knows? The Montreal Canadiens have a ton of draft picks already, as highlighted in the Pierre LeBrun tweet, so prospects might be their next target of focus right here, because there are indeed some pretty good Canadiens prospects, but not all of them are prospects anymore. Cole Caulfield is no longer a prospect, unfortunately speaking, and for the Montreal Canadiens, I mean, I guess you could go out there and say they could boost whatever it is on their young core, because there isn't really anything to lose in that respect. So, Rangers fans, Canadiens fans, talk to me in the comments, what do you think about this Pierre LeBrun tweet? Trades coming soon between these two teams? Pierre LeBrun thinks so. Let me know in the comments all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this Virtual Trolls 99. And bye.